In a quiet neighborhood known as Westlake Hills, a shocking crime unraveled on a winter evening in November 2021. The small town, usually peaceful, became the center of attention when news spread of a missing person. Rebecca Tinsley, a beloved local teacher, was reported missing by her close friends after she failed to return home from a book club meeting. Friends and family quickly grew concerned. They called the police when no one could find her. The sound of sirens filled the air as officers rushed to the scene, marking the start of a disturbing investigation. The first step for detectives was to gather information about Rebecca. Friends described her as cheerful and kind. She loved teaching and always had a smile. However, she also had some secrets. She sometimes argued with her ex-boyfriend, Franklin, who still lived in town. He was known to have a temper and was often seen pacing around their old neighborhood. This led to worries. Could Franklin be linked to Rebecca's disappearance? The police searched Rebecca's home in hopes of finding clues. The atmosphere was tense as officers combed through her belongings. They found her jacket hanging by the door and her phone charging on the kitchen counter. Outside, the neighborhood felt alive with chatter. People gathered in small groups, sharing what they knew about Rebecca. Many offered help, but nobody had seen her since that evening. Within a short time, the excitement turned to fear as the reality of the situation sunk in. As days passed without answers, the community felt uneasy. Many questioned if Rebecca had fallen into harm. Friends whispered theories. Was it an accident? Did she have trouble with someone? Or was she a target of a planned attack? These questions filled the air with uncertainty. Reports of other local missing cases played on their minds, adding to their anxieties. The once peaceful streets of Westlake Hills felt heavy with worry. Investigators began interviewing potential witnesses. They spoke to neighbors and friends. Some even searched on their own. Local news stations picked up the story quickly. They called this situation a mystery. Reporters demanded to know more, which intensified the pressure detectives faced. Each soul in town was on edge. Families hugged tighter, and safety became a concern. A week after Rebecca went missing, something surprising happened. A dog walker in a nearby park discovered a purse that belonged to her. Inside, there was cash, her ID, and her phone charger. The location made everyone more troubled. Why was Rebecca's purse in the park? The police raised more questions. Was she in danger or trying to escape? It raised alarm bells. With this discovery, investigators felt renewed urgency. They moved quickly to examine the area and search for more evidence. Could this be the start of unraveling the mystery? The tone grew darker as the stakes grew higher. The community remained alert. A sense of fear drifted with the evening breeze. The search for Rebecca was not just about finding a missing person. It was about uncovering truths. What had happened to her in Westlake Hills? This would be a case they would all remember. Viewer discretion is advised as we honor the gravity of these real-life events. This channel aims to inform and educate while respecting all who are involved. As the days passed, the investigation into Rebecca Tinsley's disappearance gained momentum. Law enforcement quickly stepped in to gather information. The police were determined to solve the mystery. Detectives from the local precinct began working around the clock. Their first move was to collect all available evidence. They seized Rebecca's belongings from her home and analyzed her phone for clues. Forensics officers scoured the area where her purse was found, hoping for fingerprints or other clues. Every detail mattered. Surveillance footage became a key part of the investigation. Detectives reviewed camera recordings from nearby buildings. They looked carefully for any sign of Rebecca. Hours turned into days as they searched video after video. Finally, they spotted something important. A figure matching Rebecca's description was seen walking away from the cafe after her book club that night. The footage showed her deep in thought, holding her phone close. Little did she know that this moment would become a critical piece of evidence. To gather more information, the detective spoke to many witnesses. They visited the cafe where Rebecca spent her evening. Baristas remembered her well, chatting happily with friends. One barista mentioned seeing a man at the cafe that day who seemed too interested in her. According to the barista, the man sat alone, glancing at Rebecca. This comment raised suspicion. Who was this man? Did he know her? Detectives wanted to find out more. As they tracked down leads, they discovered that Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, Franklin, had been active in the days before her disappearance. He was known to be emotional and impulsive. Detectives interviewed him again, asking questions about his whereabouts on the night Rebecca went missing. Franklin seemed uneasy. He struggled to recall details. His story changed, which made detectives question his honesty. They noticed how he avoided eye contact, fidgeting with his hands as he spoke. Alarm bells rang in the detectives' minds, but they needed more proof. In the community, suspicion lingered in the air. Friends started to talk about Franklin, sharing their own doubts. They mentioned his temper and how he threatened to harm Rebecca during their fights. Many felt it was more than just concern. Rumors spread quickly, and soon, everyone seemed to have their theory about what happened to Rebecca. As the investigation heated up, some residents decided to take matters into their own hands. They organized search parties, scouring parks and trails in the area. Their unity brought comfort to Rebecca's family. Many wore t-shirts with her picture on them, showing support and hope. Volunteers, young and old, trekked through woods, holding signs that read, "Help find Rebecca." It showed the spirit of Westlake Hills. Together, they were determined to find her. Alongside local efforts, journalists began covering the story extensively. They aimed to share the honest details of the case. With cameras rolling, they interviewed friends and family on the news, sharing their love and hope for Rebecca's safe return. As coverage increased, so did public interest. The message was clear. Someone knew something, and they hoped someone would speak up. The tension built as the investigation continued. Detectives worked tirelessly, collecting every scrap of evidence. With suspicion growing, their confidence remained strong. Every bit of new information brought them closer to uncovering the truth about Rebecca's disappearance. It felt like the community was drawing closer together, united in their quest for answers. Their dedication gave hope that Rebecca would still be found safe. Viewer discretion is advised as we explore these real-life events. This channel aims to inform, educate, and raise awareness while respecting all who are involved in this unfolding mystery. As the investigation into Rebecca Tinsley's disappearance progressed, detectives uncovered some puzzling clues. They dug deep into Rebecca's past. Interesting facts came to light about previous incidents in the area. In 2019, a local woman named Sarah had disappeared under strange circumstances as well. Like Rebecca, she was last seen near a cafe before vanishing. The police had thought Sarah's case was isolated. Now, with Rebecca missing, this seemed more than a coincidence. Detectives began to wonder if there could be a connection. Had someone moved through the shadows of Westlake Hills, hidden among its residents? This thought intensified their search for the truth. Amid their investigation, detectives faced challenges. They encountered false leads that caused confusion. One witness claimed to see a woman matching Rebecca's description in a different town. This testimony sent officers racing south, hoping to find her. Yet, it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. The search was exhausting and made time feel like it was slipping away. While they chased these leads, pressure grew from the news media. Journalists were eager for updates. Each day, new stories filled the news. Friends and family remained glued to their screens. They wanted every detail, but uncertainty began to weigh on them. The pressure also affected the detectives. They wanted to solve the case quickly, but each delay raised the stakes. Inaccurate reports could easily confuse those involved. At the same time, public interest was immense. Everyone in Westlake Hills wanted answers. Social media buzzed with rumors and theories, adding layers of tension. What started as a story about one missing woman turned into a community-wide fear. Amid the swirl of public speculation, detectives discovered critical evidence near the cafe. A jacket that matched Rebecca's was found in a dumpster not far from her last sighting. The jacket held promise, a fresh direction for the investigation. However, evidence can be misleading. As they examined it, they found no fingerprints. They sent it to the lab for further testing, hopeful it might reveal something. The current timeline became clearer. Did Rebecca leave it behind herself, or was someone trying to hide it? Complicating matters further were conflicting witness statements. Some neighbors told police that they saw a man suspiciously watching the area around the cafe that same night. Others argued they saw no one. This conflicting information bewildered detectives. Multiple reports made it difficult to determine fact from fiction. The search for answers became more complicated. At this point, guilt-inducing stories emerged in local news outlets. They talked about the happy life Rebecca led. Friends spoke of her joy in teaching and her kindness. These emotional stories aimed to rally the community, yet they also stoked the fear of unknown dangers lurking in their town. Each article pushed the story further into public consciousness, making it harder to differentiate from the truth. The mix of patterns and confusing details continued to spark curiosity in the investigation. At home, residents couldn't shake their fears. Echoes of, "What if there's more?" resonated in the community. Yet, hope persisted. Each twist brought detectives a step closer to solving the mystery. It fueled their determination to find the answers that everyone was searching for. As the investigation continued, they felt more in control. They knew they were getting closer to uncovering what happened to Rebecca Tinsley. The investigation truly was just beginning. Viewer discretion is advised as we carefully explore these real-life events. This channel aims to inform, educate, and raise awareness, while always respecting those affected by this case. A crucial moment came in the search for Rebecca Tinsley, when the police received new DNA evidence from the jacket found near the cafe. This evidence changed everything. Forensics worked hard and quickly to analyze the samples. They discovered DNA that did not belong to Rebecca. This evidence indicated that someone else had contact with the jacket. It suggested that the investigation was far from over. Every minute they waited added to the tension within the police department. The detectives gathered around a table covered in evidence. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. They discussed who could be linked to this DNA. Only one name crossed their minds: Franklin, Rebecca's ex-boyfriend. His earlier behavior rolled through their thoughts again. Franklin had been inconsistent in his alibi and evasive when they questioned him. Did this new evidence shed light on his involvement? Were there secrets hidden among the people closest to Rebecca? As their investigation deepened, detectives conducted a background check on Franklin. They discovered troubling things about his past. He had a history of aggressive behavior and had faced accusations from previous partners. This finding rattled the detectives. There were indications that his temper presented a real danger. The case against him began to build. Yet, new layers of mystery emerged. One day, a key witness stepped forward. This witness was a man who frequented the cafe and had seen Rebecca shortly before she disappeared. He described an interaction between her and a man he identified as Franklin. The man stated that he overheard a serious conversation. Franklin seemed angry. The witness spoke of threats made in a low voice, which made him fearful. This information alarmed the detectives even more, confirming their worries about Franklin's behavior. With new evidence and testimony, the focus shifted and intensified. The pressure grew for detectives to make a move. They started watch over Franklin closely, counting the moments until they could bring him in. If he was guilty, they wanted as much solid proof as possible before making an arrest. The community could sense that the investigation was nearing a critical turning point. Followers of the case were glued to the news. Tension spread like wildfire through Westlake Hills, and everyone felt the urgency. Many couldn't help but speculate about the possible outcome. Conversations filled the air as they waited for police updates. The story captured not just the community's attention, but the attention of media outlets as well. How would this investigation end? On a quiet Friday afternoon, detective teams organized a planned confrontation. They decided it was time to bring Franklin in for questioning. Officers knocked on Franklin's door, heartbeats racing in anticipation. What would they find? Was he innocent or guilty? When he opened the door, law enforcement wasted no time. They introduced themselves and explained the reason for their visit. Franklin looked surprised, but he did not resist. This moment felt chaotic yet controlled as officers escorted him to their cars. The world seemed to hold its breath. Would this confrontation reveal the truth behind Rebecca's disappearance? As they drove Franklin to the precinct, questions flooded the minds of investigators. Was he ready to confess? Or was he still trying to hide what happened? Viewer discretion is always advised while exploring these real-life events. Our mission is to inform, educate, and raise awareness while respecting the lives affected by this case. Inside the interrogation room, Franklin sat across from the detectives. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape. From the moment he entered the room, the pressure was palpable. Detectives placed the evidence before him, hoping it would lead to a confession. The atmosphere hung heavy with tension as they explained the DNA evidence and the witness testimony. Franklin's face turned pale, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. Franklin began to speak, his words trembling. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said, his voice shaking with denial. His memories of the night Rebecca disappeared started blending. He claimed he was at home, watching television. But the detectives knew that his alibi was weak and unproven. They pressed him, pointing out the contradictions in his story. As they did so, Franklin shuffled in his seat, visibly unsettled. He tried to manipulate the conversation, claiming he was being framed. "Everyone knows I loved Rebecca. I would never hurt her," he insisted. But the detectives kept their focus. They refused to fall for his attempts to gain sympathy. While they listened to his reasoning, it became clear that Franklin was struggling to cope with the situation. The walls of the interrogation room seemed to close in on him, and his nervousness began to show. As the detectives discussed the evidence, Franklin's facade began to crack. His denials grew weaker with each piece of proof the detectives laid out. Under pressure, he started admitting to fragments of the truth without confessing outright. "Things got heated between us, but it wasn't like what you think," he claimed, holding back crucial details. This pattern of avoidance highlighted his anxiety about being revealed. Franklin's psychological state became a focal point for the detectives. They knew how people react when pressed into discomfort. They carefully used questions to uncover his buried motives. He began to mention personal struggles, claiming he felt pushed to react due to his stress. He finally conceded, "Sometimes I just got so angry." This statement raised alarms. Was there more behind his rage? With each moment spent in interrogation, Franklin cycled through emotion, fear, anger, and fleeting guilt. He seemed to weigh his options like a chess player, trying to outmaneuver the detectives. Suddenly, he turned the narrative back to Rebecca, telling them about her alleged failings. His tone shifted, and he painted a picture where he was the victim in a troubled relationship. "It was her that drove me mad," he claimed. But the detectives kept pressing and resisting his emotional manipulation. Finally, the intense questioning broke him. In a moment of vulnerability, his bravado faded. "I don't know what happened that night. Everything just went wrong," he said and paused, clearly overwhelmed. The detectives pressed again, seeking clarification. Franklin's voice became smaller. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I just wanted her to listen." That admission hung in the cool air of the room. It hinted at possible violence without confirming it. He remained vague, revealing just enough to avoid a full confession. But with every word he spoke, the detectives could sense he was battling the truth within himself. This dance with confession created a deeper understanding of his character, one filled with emotional turmoil. As the interrogation continued, detectives recognized the patterns of fear and guilt running through Franklin's mind. The combination of pressure and his hesitation to fully confess made it clear that more investigation was needed, but it also felt like they were on the verge of a breakthrough. Every detail brought them closer to understanding the true nature of the crime. Viewer discretion is advised as we delve into the realities of this case. Our mission is to inform, educate, and raise awareness about these important issues, all while respecting the people affected by these events. The legal proceedings of Rebecca Tinsley's case began, and the community watched closely. As Franklin was charged with her murder, the emotions in Westlake Hills were mixed. Some people felt anger, others were filled with sadness. Rebecca's family stood firmly together, determined to seek justice. They were heartbroken and needed answers, while also wanting to honor her memory. The trial became a focal point for the town. When the day of the trial arrived, the courtroom was packed. Family and friends filled the benches to hear the details of the case. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. The prosecution laid out strong evidence against Franklin. They presented witness testimonies from those who described seeing Franklin near the cafe that night. They included the man who saw him arguing with Rebecca, and the evidence from the jacket became crucial. Everything seemed to point towards Franklin's involvement in Rebecca's disappearance. Franklin's defense team employed several strategies in court. They argued that the DNA evidence had been mishandled. They claimed that there could have been a mistake, leading to wrongful accusations. Many jurors listened carefully. The defense implied that the police had not done their job meticulously, hoping to create doubts in their minds. This tactic sparked moments of courtroom drama, stirring tensions among the people gathered. As the trial progressed, emotional testimonies from Rebecca's family broke hearts. They spoke of their lives without her. Family members shed tears while describing Rebecca's kindness and love for teaching. These heartfelt moments resonated deeply with the jurors. Her mother, with shaking hands, recounted the pain of missing her daughter. It was clear that the absence of Rebecca cut deep within her family. They urged the court to understand not only the loss of Rebecca, but the impact her death had on their lives. Yet, amidst the sorrow, unexpected twists appeared. New evidence came to light during the trial that momentarily changed the course of the proceedings. A neighbor testified they had seen Franklin walking away from the scene later that night, contradicting his earlier statement. The confession left everyone stunned and rattled. It cast further doubt on Franklin's innocence, deepening the intrigue surrounding the case. Public reaction intensified as the trial gained nationwide coverage. News outlets reported live updates, ensuring everyone was aware of the events taking place in Westlake Hills. Online discussions filled forums where people shared their opinions. Many believed Franklin was guilty based on the evidence. Others voiced concerns about fairness, calling for a complete exploration of the trial process. The town's emotional tension shifted with each new piece of information, and conversations buzzed about the courtroom drama. As the trial's closing arguments approached, both sides prepared to make their final cases. The prosecution emphasized that the weight of the evidence pointed clearly to Franklin as Rebecca's murderer. The defense called for harm between Franklin and Rebecca to be seen as a complicated relationship, insisting that Franklin had never intended for anything bad to happen. By the end of the trial, many felt exhausted. The emotional toll of the testimonies and the heartbreaking story had taken its place in the hearts of Westlake Hills. As the jury began deliberation, their minds filled with the heavy responsibility of weighing justice for Rebecca. The community braced itself for what felt like a looming verdict, knowing that the announcement would bring either relief or further heartbreak. Viewer discretion is always advised while we discuss this important case. The goal remains to inform, educate, and respect all individuals affected by the events surrounding Rebecca's disappearance. The verdict in Franklin's trial finally came as the jury announced its decision. It echoed through the courtroom, causing a wave of tension among friends and family. Franklin was found guilty of murder. The news shocked many. For Rebecca's family, it felt like a moment of hope. They wept tears of relief, knowing that someone would be held accountable for their loss. But outside the courtroom, the response varied. Some community members believed the decision was fair, while others questioned whether justice had truly been served. The media coverage exploded after the verdict. This case was no longer just a local story. It was now one that captivated the nation. Newspapers ran headlines declaring the town as a symbol of hope and justice. Reporters shared in-depth stories about Rebecca's life and the struggle of her family to find peace. The media spotlight drew attention to the issues surrounding domestic violence, shining a light on a topic often hidden in shadows. As the story traveled, people took to social media to express their collective feelings about the case. Online forums buzzed with discussions about justice, equality, and the legal system. While many praised the conviction, others felt uncertainty regarding the outcome. Some speculated if the trial had been fair. This public opinion added layers to an already intense narrative, swirling into a mix of contradictions and questions. Amid the reactions, lingering doubts emerged. Some observed that certain details about Franklin's motivations felt undisclosed. Public interest sparked debates, and conspiracy theories took root. Speculations arose regarding Franklin's behavior and the events leading up to that tragic night. Many questioned whether he acted alone and whether there were other people involved. Some wondered if he was simply a product of deeper social problems. The discussion spilled into various platforms, leading to calls for further investigation. Some demanded a closer look at unresolved questions and overlooked evidence. The community felt torn by conflicting sentiments. While they sought justice for Rebecca, they also wanted the full truth. With whispers of conspiracy theories circulating, there was a sense that the story was far from complete. Rebecca's family needed answers, and the media helped them seek closure. As her parents shared their grief and struggles to heal, many rallied behind them. Support groups formed, aiming to raise awareness about women's safety and rights. They wanted to ensure that no family would have to suffer the same loss again. This drive united people in the community. By sharing Rebecca's story, the truth began to unfold through their collective efforts. Franklin's sentencing arrived, and he faced the judge for the last time. As he learned his punishment, the entire courtroom felt the weight of the moment. The judge emphasized the importance of safety in society. He acknowledged the fear that lingered in communities affected by violence. The punishment sent a message that such actions would not go unpunished, aiming to reassure a frightened public. As time passed, Rebecca's story remained in the hearts of Westlake Hills. The impact of her case had a powerful effect. It served as a reminder of the importance of protective measures and education around domestic violence. Over time, while certain memories faded, the lesson remained firm. Community members learned that their voices mattered and that they could rally for justice. Viewer discretion is advised as we recount these events. Our goal is to inform, educate, and raise awareness about the real-life implications of this case, always focusing on the dignity of those affected by such tragedies. As the dust settled on the trial of Franklin and the case of Rebecca Tinsley, many thoughts emerged about justice and its impact. The jury's verdict brought a sense of closure for Rebecca's family. They felt that justice had been served, but questions remained. Despite Franklin's conviction, lingering doubts haunted some within the community. Many wondered if deeper issues had been left unaddressed. Was Franklin the sole person responsible, or was there more to the story? These questions left residents reflecting on the nature of justice itself. Following the trial, the impact of Rebecca's case rippled throughout Westlake Hills and beyond. The outcome sparked discussions about laws relating to domestic violence and justice for victims. Activists rallied in support of stronger protections for individuals in fragile relationships. They pushed for changes in law to ensure better support systems for those experiencing domestic abuse. In response, lawmakers began considering ways to strengthen legal responses to similar situations. This case became a symbol of hope for many families affected by violence. Through Rebecca's tragic story, people began to understand how important it is to address these issues early. However, not every loose end was tied up. Many families remain concerned about those still unaccounted for, mirroring Rebecca's situation. The case raised awareness about missing persons in general. It provoked thought about how each disappearance affects not only families, but entire communities. With social media's help, the voices of victims and their families became louder. Support for awareness events increased, engaging people to take action against domestic violence and unresolved disappearances. Examining the psychological aspect of Franklin's actions opened further discussions. Experts revealed that feelings of powerlessness and emotional turmoil often prompt violent behaviors. In Franklin's case, unresolved personal issues and a history of aggressive actions may have contributed to his violent response toward Rebecca. Understanding this behavior helps shed light on how to prevent such actions in the future. It emphasizes the importance of intervention before violent conflicts escalate. The community found itself pondering deeper issues regarding mental health and emotional support. The resolution of Rebecca's case leaves a lasting reminder, a call to action for society. Community members must advocate for change, focusing on raising awareness about domestic violence and the importance of listening to victims. Questions linger so that people cannot forget the impact of this case. Could improvements in law and societal attitudes prevent future tragedies? Could justice ever truly be served when doubt remains? As we reflect on Rebecca's story, it is crucial to understand that each individual matters. Behind every headline is a person, someone who loved and who was loved. Their stories deserve attention, so the tragic loss of lives like Rebecca's motivates us to inspire change. Together, we can confront the shadows of violence and raise awareness surrounding the complexities of missing persons. Awareness is crucial, as it leads us one step closer to a society where everyone can feel safe. Viewer discretion is always advised in discussions surrounding these cases. Our mission is to inform, educate, and encourage action, always being respectful of those impacted by such stories.